What'd you guys do this week?
I decided that I need to start carrying no matter what. And I decided
Really?
that, yeah, for not a
Yeah.
reason you think. I was at a light. Well, okay, it's driving through traffic, right? And in the lane I'm in, I can see there's construction ahead. The lane's closed, with the little arrow pointing. So I turn behind me. I got 2 car lengths between me and the red Jeep, whatever it was. So I signal and pull over. Apparently, the guy he thought that 2 car lengths was a little too close. So this dude floors it, gets in the other lane that's about to, be closed, and just cuts right in front of me, man. I had to slam on my brakes, laid on the horn, and I'm just like, so I get mad when stuff like that happens. I didn't cut him off. He was just mad. I don't know what his problem was. So, he moves into the left turn lane, and I just look at him, and he's mean mugging me, and I had to beat this guy's ass. And I sat there for a split second and thought, maybe I should follow him and beat his ass, right? Because I wasn't carrying. I was just going to the gym. But if I would have been carrying, that thought would not have entered my head. It would not have entered my head, because it's like when you're carrying, you're at a whole different level at that point. Just because you get mad at somebody, you're not going to go shoot them, right? Now, I'm an old man, I'm 50 years old. That kid was young. He's probably maybe 21 or 22, and he probably beat my ass. He looked like a fat wad of chewed bubblegum, but you never know. You never know who you're messing with. So I need to start carrying so I don't get myself in those situations. Just simply getting mad because somebody cut you off in traffic, you're not going to, you're carrying, so you're not going to escalate. It's just like, it's not going to happen, So I need to carry all the time to
I was
keep my
laughing because
fuse
that
nice
thought
and long.
process, that thought ran through my head. I'm like, if you were to write this back in the 80s, it would be like geriatric old man chases down, young adult and beats his ass in his parking lot.
Why would that be the
You could
80s?
Well, because life expectancy. I mean, it is, dude.
Oh,
50 nowadays.
Yeah.
50 nowadays ain't 50 like when we were younger. At least I don't think it is. Maybe it is. Who knows?
No, you could have taken him. It's like my dad said. It's like my dad said, man. Age and treachery will always overcome youth and endurance.
Yeah,
always.
But at the end of the
That is
day,
true.
you know the deal. It's not worth it to get in a fight with somebody. It's just not worth it at all.
No. Well, the problem is, man, you're getting in a fight with people these days, especially, especially us, for the most part. I mean, we're not, Hulk Hogan or Arnold Schwarzeneggers, but at the end of the day, like for dudes our age, we're in pretty good shape, and you got that old man strength, right? And you're gonna crack somebody in the face, you're gonna break their jaw, you're gonna hurt them. You don't know what they have, right? They could pull out a knife, they could pull out a gun, they could pull out something, and if they don't hurt you, you hurt them, then next thing you know, it's a lawsuit, and it's honestly, in a lot of time, it's not worth it.
No.
It's it's like it's like Jocko says. He's like, man, he goes, the best thing you can do is just walk away. He's like, for people, whatever. It's like I can walk away until you lay hands on me. Once you lay hands on me and grab me, I can't walk away anymore. And then it's on. And
that's hard to convince the youth today. Like my boy, 22 years old, and I just try to tell him, it's like, hey man, it's like all the schools we went to and they teach you. It's like, okay, here you go, man. Here's my man card. I'll mail it to you. You can have it, But the whole point is you unask the AO and you get out until you can't, right? And then it's a different ball game. And then at that point, I mean, we know it's like, hey, I might get my ass kicked, but I don't think any one of us or a lot of our listeners are scared of violent activities. It's like, barring you shanking me or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, there is a certain point in time to where it is like, okay, well, this is just, it's going to be what it's going to be. And we're going to have a good old Donnybrook right here. So a friend of mine, and you guys know him. I won't say his name because I want to putting his business out there. But so him and his wife and some friends and their wives are out, where I live one Friday, Saturday evening, and they're downtown. If you can call it downtown, and they're walking there, headed back home for the night, and they bump into, a couple of young, early 20, year old. They were either locals or, maybe they were young Joes from, from Fort Bragg that decided to venture over to, the other side of town. And they walked past, and one of them, like, shoulder checks my buddy. And he's good. He's like, "Hey, you good, man? You okay?" He's like, he doesn't do anything, he keeps walking. And his wife says something to one of the guys, and the guy turns around and pushes her. And so
Oh
at that
shit.
point,
Then
at
it's
that
all
point, it's
bad.
done. Yeah, at that point, it's done. It's like you just laid hands on my wife, big done. And so they quickly found themselves, face down on the pavement, right in the middle of the street in this little town, and they had 4 or 5 decent sized fellas on top of them, you know, and they figured it out pretty quick. Like, hey, this is probably not the part of this is probably not the little town, little area that we want to we want to do stuff like this in. So there,
There is something to be
does come
said
a
for situational awareness.
yeah, there, it's like I told you guys, we were out and a couple of young kids. I say kids, they're probably early 20s. You know how a lot of animals, they have like bright colors and stuff, and sometimes like it's either it's a warning. That's nature's warning sign. Like, hey, that thing's got bright colors. It's probably dangerous, or it's got bright colors because it wants to attract things to it so it can kill it. Uh,
Yeah.
so humans are like, if you see cauliflower ears, like that's
Yeah.
that's the warning sign for humans. They were dude, they got smack talking this guy, and this guy had cauliflower ears, and we're just like, ooh, like, dude, don't not that guy. And that guy ran his mouth just one too many times, and next thing you know, man, he was picking himself up off the floor with guarantee you that dude had to get stitches,
Hmm.
for that eyebrow. Because it's like, bro, it's like that dude's got cauliflower ears, man. He's not all yoked out or anything, but bro, cauliflower ears, you're like, nope,
He's probably going to wear you out.
yeah, yeah, that guy's gonna snap your elbow in about 30 seconds. And you're not even gonna know what happened to you. So
Speaking of carrying, I just started carrying appendix carry inside the waistband, my full size Kimber.
heck yeah, losing some weight, man.
No, 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 not for that reason or what Luke's telling you, but what I found is that it gives me a bigger bulge up front. So when I walk around the neighborhood or the shopping malls or whatever, I look a little bit more impressive.
I love it. I love it. So I did so you ordered that little Ruger LCP.
Well, since my wife doesn't listen, yes. Dude, I am straight. So I texted it to my boy and I'm like, hey, I just bought this. I said, but you can't tell anybody about it. He's like, why? I'm like, you just can't tell mom about it or whatever. So my plan is it'll be here when I get back. I have to travel again next week, but it'll be here when I get back. I'm going to go pick it up. I'm going to throw it in the safe. And then I'm just going to leave it there for like, I don't know. She'll find it like a couple months or something like that. And she's like, what's this? I'm like, oh yeah, I bought that like months ago. That's been in the safe. Like I can't even tell you when I remembered buying that.
I don't know why y'all choose to make everyone's job easier for them. You didn't even give yourself an out. Oh yeah, it got lost in shipping and it fell into a lake, and they're going to reimburse me for it. I don't know why you guys do that. Yeah, I mean, we do only have 6 people who listen, but including our one FBI Fed, who's
And
always
4 Indians.
yeah dots.
Who yeah, our FBI guy, our mandated listener, he's you gotta listen. The yeah. No, I'm gonna do the same thing. Luckily, the good thing is that it was so inexpensive that like it won't even be a blip on
Yes.
the radar. It'd just be like, what is it? I was like, oh, reloading supplies or something. Okay, like it won't even like it's gonna be my it's gonna be
But
my like
you have a
my,
big gun safe, don't you?
yeah, yeah. I've got a well, it's a 64 right gun safe. But what dude, that's like 64 lever action 30-30s with no optics.
Stripped down
Um,
and yeah.
yeah, once you start putting weapons optics in it, it's like 23. You know, um, so we got a decent size safe. But half of it's my stuff, and then the other half is important
Yeah.
documents, family heirloom, stuff like that 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 are irreplaceable. So,
Oh man, I could see that dude. Josh just typed into the chat who that was. Does he listen?
sometimes, yeah.
Man, I could see him effing somebody up, dude. The
Yeah.
guy that had the run in. Oh, dude, I
Yeah.
would not want to.
Yeah. He's and the thing is, man, like that dude could like he can fight.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
he's
mean
wiry. He's wiry. He's
yeah,
strong.
yeah. And the and a couple of guys that he's with, that he was with, or they're meat eaters. And it was like, oh man, you just like that was just not the crowd of guys to go mess with. Roger, you remember when we were in Boston and
Yes.
we were all at the Black Rose. So Luke, I
Yes.
can't remember if Luke was there or not.
I was not there. I've heard
No,
this story.
no.
I was not there.
Dude, I mean, there's what, 20 of us?
Yeah.
There's probably 15, 20 of us, and you have us nerds, and then you have a whole bunch of meat eaters. And this one guy that like he's not the biggest dude in the room by any means. And he doesn't have cauliflower ears. He really doesn't have a whole lot of muscle tone. He wants to come over and start poking one of the fellas in the chest, talking about how he's going to kick his ass. And it was like, ooh, brother. And we had to grab that dude and take him to his friends and be like, y'all need to keep him over here. Like for real. Do not let him come back over to that side of this bar. Cause you don't know.
There
You
are
have no idea
330
what's
million
happening right
people in this country, and you picked the wrong group.
You picked the wrong
picked
12.
That's the, and it wasn't us, because I mean I think the difference is like us three. I think I can speak for all three of us. Like we can defend ourselves, right? But like I don't
Yeah.
think we're like I'm not a fighter. You know what I mean? I can
No,
defend
Lord,
myself and
no.
do what I got to do and get out of the situation, but I'm not a fighter. Like
No.
these folks are fighters, right? There's a big difference.
Aggressive.
Yeah.
Very aggressive. I would say, yeah, I don't have that level of aggression that those dudes have, for sure. Can we make a rule right now and put out the rule so that everyone can hear it and we can agree on it? It's mainly me and Josh, or you can not agree, and we can discuss. But from now on, if you want to, if we either one of us want to respond to a reply on X, let's check who it is, and if they have under 200 followers, unless we know them, don't engage. Because I just engaged with a dude who was saying some really stupid stuff. And I'm like, who is this guy? Check, he's got like 123 followers. I'm like, why am I doing this? I am literally wasting my time. This guy was saying in a trial, the disposition happens before the trial. And I'm like, I was trying to be nice. I was like, thinking you mean deposition, because the disposition is how the case was determined. Like he's either guilty, not guilty. That's disposition.
Did you call me a musician?
And
you think I'm out here doing tricks?
And this guy's like, listen, troll, the trial's already over. And I'm like, ugh. I was like, okay, I still think you mean deposition because the disposition doesn't happen before the trial, but enjoy your life and you're mute. The only people who engage and are idiots and jerk offs are people with under 200 followers. Seriously.
Well, because they were like us when we had under 200 followers. You're just trying to get some banter back and forth and get a follow. But since you mentioned that last time, a couple weeks ago, that's what I do, man. I look on there and it's it's like, hey, man, or the other part to this, and I've stopped doing this recently. Like when they when it's one of the paid shills, right, and they've got like 500,000 followers, but they follow like 10 people, dude, don't even comment on it because there's no engagement there. Nope. You're just asking for the 5-follower bot that just created the profile with no picture to go back. You're just asking for it. It's just not even worth it.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great rule. And I've been trying to, because we talked about that, a week or two ago, and I've been trying to follow that a little bit. Every once in a while, there's been a couple times where I've, chirped back, and then I was like, I'll go back and look at their profile. I'm like, okay. They got like 13 followers. We're like, oh, got me.
Yeah, I think the mute buttons probably there are a lot out there, man. I think the trolls are out there in force.
They are.
Oh yeah,
full-time trolls, and I'm not even saying that they're automated. I'm sure some of them are, but I think that people are getting paid probably a pittance. Not much, just to create accounts, and then just throw all this stuff out there. Pretty sure that's happening.
Yeah. I think what are we at now? 797.
No, we're over 800, man.
Oh, are you guys, dude? You guys are killing it, man.
I was driving back from the beach today. I didn't. I had a little bit this morning, but after that, I was packing cars and driving and stuff.
You can always get a You can always get a couple of followers from a nice Robert Heinlein quote like this one. Josh had posted, and I think this is good. He said the vast majority of people in this country don't have the stomach for what it will take to pull us from the abyss. And some dude says only extremely small-minded, stupid people think violence is the answer. So you know what I had to drop in there. Quote, anyone who clings to the historically untrue and thoroughly immoral doctrine that violence never solves anything, I would advise to conjure up the ghosts of Napoleon Bonaparte and the Duke of Wellington and let them debate it. The ghost of Hitler could referee, and the jury might well be the dodo, the great auk, the passenger pigeon. Violence, naked force, has settled more issues in history than has any other factor, and the contrary opinion is wishful thinking at its worst. Breeds that forget this basic truth have always paid for it with their lives and their freedom. Love that quote. That's from Starship Troopers. That is one of the greatest quotes in literature, in my opinion.
And
100%.
you probably blew that dude's mind. He's like, never mind.
Oh, you're absolutely right, man. Violence has solved a lot of things.
Yeah. It sure has.
Well, and the thing is, people that come out there, it's like the First Amendment. We say the First Amendment's protected by the Second. Those weaklings can sit there and say that because men that are capable of violence have given him that right to be able to say that. And they don't, there is no connection there for them. You know what I mean?
No. Well, men, and I use I'm going to use the term men loosely here. Men like that are not capable of violence. And that's why they eschew it so much. They're just not capable of it. And Jordan Peterson, some people are going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're quoting Jordan Peterson.
I like
Jordan
that
Peterson's spot on, man. I agree with probably 85-90% of what he says. There's some things he says I'm like, no. But, at the end of the day, there's nobody that I agree with 100% of what they say. Even you two, shockingly enough, right? So, and Jordan Peterson's like, a man who is not capable of violence is not a good man, because a man who is capable of violence but keeps it in check, that is a good man, right? Because they're capable of being a monster, but they choose not to be. And if you're incapable of it, then you're not a good man. You're not virtuous. You're incapable. So you don't have anything to keep in check. And you should be capable of violence. It's like he said, I think he was on Rogan. He was like, you should become a monster and then learn how to control it. Goes back to that Sun Tzu. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Yeah. So it's a real talk right there.
Speaking of war, I'm not clear on the specifics, but I'll tell you one thing: some slides need to be updated. I think Germany I don't think they arrested anyone, but I do believe they put out warrants or something like that on some folks that they believe are responsible for the Nord Stream 2 pipeline bombing. And what's word around the campfire is they're Ukrainian. And further word around the campfire is it was the former Minister of Defense for Germany did an interview, and he believes that it was the Polish and the Ukrainians that conspired to do it. And the CIA tried to stop him. They tried to stop him.
Oh, Lord.
So, dude,
you know how they did that? They're like, don't.
They're like, don't stop. Don't.
When that first happened, I think that a lot of people didn't realize how significant that it happened. I mean, you're cutting off an energy supply from the third largest economy in the world, which is Germany. And I was just like, I remember texting you guys. I was like, well, here we go. Here's World War III right here. Another war on the continent, because some people are going to be pissed. But now that Germany's come out and said this, I was texting you guys earlier. I was like, maybe this is the beginnings of an off-ramp of Germany is like, okay, you're responsible for this. We're not supporting this anymore. We got to bring an end to this. It's time to come to the table, and the U.S. isn't stopping them from doing that. I don't know, man. This could either go really bad, and I think a lot of it will be ignored. We'll still be shoveling money in there, like you said, Roger. But this is something. This is not nothing. For Germany to come out and do this, not nothing.
It should be, right? I mean, and you're right. It's a perfect off ramp because when you look at that, and that's why I shot out the text. I can't remember if it was last night or this morning, where Ukraine has taken the one Russian town, and I think even the Russian media has come out and they've said it's like, okay, so and I didn't Google it to see what the distance was, but it looked like the town was at least 5 miles inside the border, give or take, whatever, at 5-10 miles or whatever. So then it makes me wonder. It's like, so what's the play here? Like, I don't understand that move. Maybe I'm just missing the bigger picture. It's like, so how far do you go? Now, obviously, he's not going to go all the way into Moscow, nor would he make it. But like, so what's the play here? Because I think, like you're saying, when you talk about the Nord Stream 2, and then when you talk about Ukraine taking a Russian town, I think it no longer becomes a defensive, hey, we're trying to protect our own sovereignty. You now become offensive, right? And maybe, and we know that. I mean, part of your defense needs to be your offense and vice versa. But once you start pushing in there, it just kind of makes me wonder. It's like, hey, so is your plan to hold this? Are you going to push farther? I guess I don't get the objective of that and where they go from there. I mean, is it just to push them 5-10 miles into the Russian border and then just give it up? But it does provide an off ramp to folks, because if you're a country looking for a way out, that's when you look at the Nord Stream piece, and then when you look at, well, okay, clearly you're able to defend your own sovereignty, you no longer need our support. So I think for countries that might be, of course we say that, and the reality is they're going to do nothing and they'll just continue dumping billions of dollars into it.
I don't know how Josh sees it, but I see it as it could be a couple of things. I think it's probably a feint, because Ukrainian forces it's close to Kiev where they took. It's just north of Kiev, I believe. It's a feint maybe to try to, either distract, or maybe it was to distract from, they knew that this news was going to come out. Hey, oh, look, we're invading Russia now. I don't think it's strategically significant at all. And I don't think that Putin's going to fall for it. Just send a bunch of troops up there to take it back, because what have we always said, man, about Ukraine and all these countries over there? Think of it like the U.S.-Mexican border, right? Think of, if there was a similar confrontation, and the Mexican military was all of a sudden powerful and ours was weak, the Mexicans come in and take, like Laredo or something. There's a lot of Mexicans that live and work at least in Laredo. There's probably a lot of Ukrainian speaking people who live in Kharkiv, or what, not Kharkiv, where is it? Kursk, right? There's probably, an ethnic Ukrainian population, probably really easy to take. So it's like, I don't see this as significant at all. I think it's a feint.
I don't think it's significant in the sense of, they were able to push up into, Russia proper, but you're right. So it happened northeast of, Kyiv, just northwest of Kharkiv Oblast. And, I think a large part of it was to take the pressure off of the Ukrainian front lines, to draw troops off the front lines and push them that direction, as far the Russians, and the Russians did have to do that. So the Russians had to pull some troops off the front lines in Kharkiv, where they were pushed up on, and to deal with this Ukrainian incursion. So, but last I saw, and this was yesterday, I think, they control about 400 square miles. That's what the news says. That's a lot of area when when you're really talking about it. And they estimate that there's about 1,000 Ukrainian soldiers, that did that. And dude, 1,000 Ukrainians to control 400 square miles, you're not controlling 400 square miles.
Yeah, that's why I think it's all
with 1,000 dudes.
I think it's bullshit.
I think it's just I think it was just a move. They saw an opportunity to keep the press engaged, keep themselves in the limelight, because at the end of the day, man, they have not been getting a lot of press, ever since October 7th, with everything that's going on here at home, in the news cycle. He doesn't want to be forgotten. And then, also, to relieve some of the pressure on, the rest of their front lines. They saw an opportunity, they did it. But, what they got to be careful of is, getting cut off, inside Russia. Because, if Russia, has the opportunity to encircle them, it's gonna be a wrap. You only got 1,000 dudes, so that you start playing with fire in the sense of, Russians do not like incursions into their home, into the motherland, and you start poking Putin in the eye too much, you don't know what kind of response you're going to get. It's going to be like a Christmas present from your grandparents. You're not sure what it is, but you're pretty sure you're not going to like it. So, they got to be careful. They got to be careful with it. But I don't think anything's going to come out. They're not going to hold that territory. The Russians have the numbers, and at this point, this war, it's a numbers game.
But it allows them to change the narrative. Putin being them, it allows
Sure.
them to change the narrative to a position that I don't think is in the favor of Ukraine. Like, I don't necessarily, if I'm Ukraine, I need the money, I need the support. I'm not so sure because, I'm reading the articles here and it's the largest victory since the invasion and this and that. It's like, I don't know. I want that type of media out there about this small town that I took, because it does change the narrative. It changes the narrative for those that are supporting. It changes the narrative for Putin himself. I mean, the guy is going to lie. He's going to pull every thread he can to give him just himself justification to do what he does. So just, I don't know. I don't think I get it. I think I agree with Luke. I think you hit it on the head with the no strategic objective. I'm not sure what they actually hope to gain from it.
Like Josh said, messaging, narrative, but it begs the question for somebody who wants to think about it longer than 2 seconds. And that obviously does not include anyone with the Ukrainian flag in their bio. But it begs the question. It's like, okay, you took that piece of Russia. Is that what you really want? If you could do that, if you had the power to do that, why don't you take back the invaded land? Since you were so successful at that, why don't you take back the land that you claim is yours? Why did you do this? Just to poke Putin in the eye? Or do you really, really want your land back? What is this? And this is all corrupt. You guys, I mean, Ukraine's a corrupt country.
So speaking of that, and I know the Olympics are over now, and I'm a little disappointed in we have some incredible athletes. So, I mean, I love watching the track and field, right? But I think at the end of the day, I think we ended up tying with China with gold medals. But we kicked everybody's ass in the overall medal count, which, I want to win everything. Josh, what is your feeling about Ukrainian mams being in the Olympics?
To me, it's one of those things. If the United States were invaded, right, it doesn't matter about who. Me personally, like I would not be going to sporting events. I would not be, doing whatever, because I would be, I would be Mel Gibson in the Patriot, in the militia, like wherever the lines are. It's like, hey man, where do you need me? Where do you need me at? I'm not off gallivanting around the globe, in discos and hanging out. I'm not going to the Olympics and stuff like that. Like I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be fighting. So for those mams that are from Ukraine in the Olympics, I can't care more than you do. And if you don't if you don't care enough to pick up a weapon and go to the front line, then hey man, I can't care more than you about your country.
What a huge missed PSYOP opportunity. And maybe they did this. I tried to watch as much Olympics as I could. I have it on in the background, and I've got another point on watching the Olympics I want to get off my chest. But maybe they did this, but if they didn't, they missed a huge PSYOP opportunity of enlisting all of those athletes in the military, getting them kitted up, taking them within 40 miles of the front line or so, having some photo ops, and putting that stuff like as part of their story. NBC would have ran with that. They would have loved that.
Oh, yeah.
Because NBC loves doing those bios. Have them in their kit and stuff. This is on the front lines, maybe dirty them up a little bit. They could have done that, but they didn't. And then
go out and throw a javelin real quick and then come back.
They missed that opportunity, and that's whatever. I think that's short-sighted. And Roger, you probably have your opinion on mams. I'm with Josh. No need to expound on that. I agree completely. One thing that was really bothering me is I heard a good quote. It's like, people need to stop getting worked up over stuff that's stupid, because outrage is a finite resource. It's like you can only be so outraged, right? If you're outraged about everything, then you're outraged about nothing, right?
Nothing.
And the opening ceremonies were a travesty that I just rolled my eyes at. I was like, oh God. Number one, it's French. Number two, it's woke. So it's like, whatever. I come to expect that. But I was hearing some folks saying, I'm not watching the Olympics, man. I'm boycotting the Olympics because of the opening ceremony. And I was like, I think that's dumb. Well, I'm outraged. That's so woke. And I'm like, I understand if Josh wants to boycott the NFL because it's woke, because the NFL pays those people. The IOC doesn't pay those athletes. Nike may pay, Simone Biles or maybe the track athletes and stuff like that, but the IOC doesn't pay those athletes. They're there competing, most of them, for their national pride. So it's like, yeah, the opening ceremonies were stupid, but I bet a lot of those athletes didn't like it either. And frankly, I don't care if they liked it or not. When they're competing in the Olympics, I'm cheering for them, unless they do something really stupid, go off the rails and get all woke or something. And I'm like, yeah, that particular athlete, whatever. Like the men's basketball team, I'm like, whatever. I don't care. But that's one thing that bothered me. It's like, yeah, the opening ceremonies sucked, but I'm still going to watch our athletes compete.
Yeah, and that was the same way. I didn't care for the opening ceremony, and it's the but yeah, I don't even know if I made a comment on X about it. I think it's like, okay, it sucks, but kind of like you, it's like, hey, this is happening in France. Like I kind of expected that. I'm not sure. I don't know. I expected that specifically, but I figured there's going to be something a little bit unhinged about it. But it didn't change me watching the Olympics, because I tell you what, man, I loved, like, it's exciting. I was sitting in the office with my wife, and because obviously it comes on early in the morning here, and you're watching the swimmers and you're watching the runners, and you see the family up there, especially the American athletes as they win gold or silver or whatever. I mean, dude, it pumps you up. Like, I was genuinely happy, right? And then you come to Simone Biles, and we tweeted back, or we texted back and forth on whether it was redemption or not, or whatever the case was. And she helps the team win. I think it was like the all around gold, or whatever it is for gymnastics for the women's team. It's like, hey, you know what? Good on her. Badass. You perform well. I'd like seeing the team run around the floor and celebrating. You see the family. I'm like, yeah, man, there's some patriotism there. They're carrying the flag. And then she's got to come out with the one X post about loving her black job, obviously a jab at Trump. And yeah, I said Trump first, but obviously a jab at Trump. And I was just like, man, you know what? And I was just thinking in my head, I think I told my wife this. I'm not even going to comment on it, because she's already done the damage and doesn't even realize it. Because you know what everybody was talking about the next day was her post. And they weren't talking about her performance in winning gold, which is what should have been the conversation.
And they
Right?
weren't talking about her teammates. She stole the
Right.
spot. She took the limelight off of her teammates, which is just as bad as her quitting during the last Olympics.
Yeah.
She quit on
And
her team
then
in the last night, and then she turned around and took the limelight off her team this one with her stupid ass post.
And then I think karma came back and bit her, and she fell off like the balance beam or something like that, like the following day. So she didn't medal for that, and then she medaled one more time. So it's just my point. It's like, hey, man, I like seeing. It's the same thing with all the sports. I like rooting for my team. I like rooting for the home team. You get involved in it. You get into it. They go a couple weeks. They go a couple months. You're like, all right, man, we're just playing sports, and we're going out there and having a good time, and I'm celebrating, and I'm drinking this and that. And then you want to bring politics into it. You want to bring something woke into it. You want to do something stupid. And then, like Josh said, you really took it away. I didn't even think about your point. I was looking at more her redeeming herself. But yeah, it took it away from the entire team, because it was a gold medal for, I think it was the women's gymnastics team overall event.
Yeah.
So totally took it away. And then when they're asking questions and interviewing the athletes, they're interviewing about her post and not their performance during the event. But they're too stupid to even, not they, she, too stupid to even realize that. Like, just too dumb to even realize that, hey, you kind of, you cut your legs out from underneath yourself, and you don't even realize that you did it.
Well, it's like Jordan said. He didn't say these words, but similar. It's like, hey, Trump fans buy Nikes and Coca-Cola too. Yeah. It's like, dude, why would, I guess people just don't care. I guess just getting in that spotlight and, having that quick clap back is more important than, making money. Or maybe she has enough, feels like she doesn't need any more. But yeah.
Yeah.
Disappointing.
She got wrapped up in the, I need to be first, not necessarily right. So that quick clap back. It's like, hey, yeah, that that got you, they got you 24 hours of coverage, but you screwed your team again. I'm beginning to think she's not a very good teammate.
Or possibly person. I said she strikes me
Definitely
as the
person.
type, even before she did that. I think I texted you guys and I was like, she strikes me as a Tiger Woods type of athlete, where Tiger Woods was just known as a raging jerk. You know, I've got a buddy, David, listens to this podcast now, and I'll call you, Dave. I'm sorry I haven't called you. I've been meaning to call this guy for like 3 weeks. You know, it just slips off because I want to have it. You ever have? It's like, okay, I'm going to wait until I have like a couple of good hours to sit down and catch up with this dude, a couple of good hours, and then it's like never happens. Never happens.
Nope.
So you end up pushing it down the road. But David met Tiger Woods twice on 2 different occasions in 2 separate places. Tried to just approach him and shake his hand or whatever politely, and Tiger Woods was just not having it. Just a complete jerk. He was being a jerk to everybody in the bar in both times, and just you could tell. She strikes me as the same type of person. Did you guys see the video of LeBron?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yeah, God, that guy's douche canoe. Absolute douche canoe. Roger, you want to tell you fill everybody?
Yeah, I mean, he gets out of the vehicle and they're going to celebrate at some club or whatever, right? Their gold medal victory, which was a good game. I mean, actually, I was surprised the men and women's. I didn't realize the women's game was that close because I didn't watch the women's game. I just caught the score the next day, but they were very close. The women won by a point, but they go to the club that night to celebrate the gold or the next night or whatever it is. And he's coming out. It's the driver's side. I don't know if he was driving or was just sitting outside. Comes out and this kid comes up and he was what, like 12 or 13. He like wants to take a quick picture or whatever.
Kid not older than 14 years old.
Yeah, no, you know, and it's not like the kid bum rushed him and got in his face. He was like, hey, you know, you kind of say, I want to take a selfie or whatever the case was. And LeBron just kind of like punted the kid to the side. And then once he gets to the door of the club, you know, he gets to dap up his
He gets a little dance.
Yeah. It just, he's a tool, man. And, you know, I mean, some of it, like, I get it. It's the camera's on you 24/7. So you're all, you know, when you look back at the Jordan years and the Barkley years and the Patrick Ewing years, those type of things, like the camera wasn't on you 24/7. So they're always going to catch you doing something. It's like the Ben Affleck, you know, memes that you see now, him and J-Lo, like that dude just looks like a beat down, like every picture you see now or video.
Miserable.
Yeah. He's just like I could actually see some of his roles in movies with some of those looks. And it's I think my wife's even like, I've seen that look on your face a couple of times. I'm like, yeah, you know, if you had a camera on me 24/7, you would catch those snippets and you would air it. It just goes along that, you know, LeBron he's not a flash in the pan. He's not a guy who's been here a year or two. We've seen this go on for 20 some odd years now. And it builds up to his character. And that's why he's just a tool bag, man. It's like, and it wasn't like there were 500 kids. It was like, it was the one kid. He could have literally just been like, hey man, or hey man, you know, shake the guy's hand. Like, hey, I'm not doing pictures right now or whatever. And then move on out.
Yeah. Like I get it. If you're a celebrity and you have, like you said, you have a camera shoved in your face 24/7, that has to get old. That has to get old, and that has to grind on everybody, even the strong, you know, even the.
It does. I mean, you should see me walking out of here knowing that we're one of the C3 hosts. All the cameras that are shoved in my face daily.
Yes, I know.
You're like, this guy's full of dumb comments.
Exactly, dude. That's why I'm glad I'm a hermit, you know, because I don't have to worry about that. The paparazzi, I see them out on the street in front of my house and stuff, but I just, you know, I avoid them. You know, I forget who it was. He was a baseball player back in the early 90s. He would go around and he would sign autographs. If you were an adult and there were kids around, you went last, right? Because he made it a point. He's like, I'm going to sign autographs for the kids first, because this may be their very first interaction with a baseball player. This may be the first game they've ever went to. You know, it's old Pete Rose adage. You know, it's like, hey man, I don't know who's out there. There might be somebody there for the very first time, and they deserve to get every cent worth of their ticket that they paid to see me play, and I'm going to give it to them. But yeah, he would go around. He was like, "No, man, if there's kids go first." And so I see if there's a throng of adults, there's adults around, be like, "Hey, man, like, hey, guys, not today, not right now." But for the kids, come on, that may be that kid's only interaction with an NBA player ever in his life.
And they'll remember that
what
forever.
It's going to be. He'll remember that forever. And it's like, dude, come on. Really? Kid? Do one kid? You can't give that kid 30 seconds? I mean, what a complete douche.
And it doesn't even hurt, like, just the kids' feelings, but I don't think it does good for the sport. And I say that it's the memories. One of my neighbors that listens to this, he tells me about the story. He grew up in Chicago and he met Jordan at the mall. And if I remember correctly, I think he had like a hat signed or a card signed or something like that or whatever. But this is something that happened 40 years ago or whatever it was. And it's like those are memories that he keeps with him forever. Tells his kids about, tells his neighbors about, tells his friends about. Super cool. And when you look at the totality of the sport, it does bring a positive light to the sport as a whole, as opposed to F those people.
Yeah.
I ain't doing that.
And I don't even know what nationality that kid was either, but that might have been his only interaction with an American.
Yeah.
And there you go. It's God, what a douche.
It's really too bad that Will Smith married Jada and stays married to her, because the only interaction I've ever had with Will Smith is at a restaurant in Budapest. Is before the whole meltdown where he slapped Chris Rock. He's a broken man. That's right. He's a broken man. But he walks up to this restaurant with his entourage. He was filming a movie there. And Michelle was like, "Oh my God, it's Will Smith." I was like, "Go get a picture with him. See if he'll take a picture with you." She walked up to him. They were going in the restaurant. It was kind of a hubbub. She walks right up to him in a very dorky way. The security tried to stop her. And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he looks at her and goes, "No, let her through." And she walks up and she goes, "Hi, Will Smith. I'm Michelle." And he's like, "Come over here, Michelle. It's really nice to meet." He was super nice to her. I was watching the whole thing. And this guy, you talk about, he's got those LeBron levels, paparazzi following him around and stuff. He took the time to take a selfie. Now, not even have a selfie. He made his bodyguard take a picture of him with my wife's phone. And on the way out, he shook everybody's hand and was smiling, just being real gracious. It's like, it can be done, right? Hey, I don't even like to be talked to at the gym, right? But
yeah,
it can be done. I mean, I understand there's a lot of pressure, and you're getting photos snapped of you, and the Ben Affleck thing is hilarious. I'm glad you brought that up. But it's like it can be done. Graciousness, like these are the people that got you there. They're the people that bought your tickets, bought your albums, so on and so forth. Show some appreciation, for God's sake. Speaking of which,
I tell you what, the whole Will Smith thing, that was like a 180, wasn't it?
Oh.
Like ever since that incident, like everything changed. It's Tiger Woods. I mean, everything just came crumbling down in a matter of 24 hours.
He's going to have a Mel Gibson type comeback. And he's just, if he even wants to, where it's just like, take it slow, do a bad movie or two that you produce that's heartwarming, and then you'll make it back. I mean, Mel Gibson, dude, he didn't slap Chris Rock, but man, he was PNG'd from Hollywood pretty hard for a while. Yeah. And he's back. I've got a quick trivia question for Roger. Test his knowledge. You ready, Roger?
No, but go ahead.
Yeah, I bet you are. If you're not ready, you'll kick it to Josh. Because I bet Josh is ready. Why do price controls cause scarcity and shortages? It's an economics question.
I could not believe that when y'all were texting about that this morning. Like, I thought you guys were joking. I thought there was like some D-bag on X had posted like price controls or whatever, right? No, I seriously thought you guys were joking.
Tell them why. Tell everybody what's going on first.
So everybody knows inflation, right? Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on who you listen to, because if you listen to the current administration, prices are coming down. We've been beating this thing up for years now, talking about, well, inflation's not coming down, the inflation rate. So in other words, like the CPI just came out and they're like, oh, inflation's down. No. The inflation rate is down. So guess what? Prices only went up 0.2% this last month. So people can't afford things. And what the government likes to blame it on is price gouging. That's with everything, right? You see it all the time with gas. It's price gouging. So they want to, the Harris campaign came out and they are going to, or want to set limits on the prices of goods and how much that retailers can charge for them. So here's the problem. Here's where the scarcity and the shortage comes in. A lot of times with these items, and depending on the goods, the margins on them are extremely small. Look at gasoline. Look at the margin on gasolines and what an actual gas station owner makes. I think it's literally pennies on the gallon, if I'm not mistaken. It's not very much. And so anyway, you take any item out there and you say, okay, I'm going to cap what you can charge, but there's no control. And I say this not in a good way. There's no control in the back end. And this is where like socialism and communism comes in. They realize on the consumer side, it doesn't work because if I'm selling a good and Luke can't afford it, the price is too high, government comes in and says, hey man, here's your cap. Here's what you got to sell it at. I just stopped selling those goods because I'm not making money off of it. Right. So I say, hey, you know what? Sorry, guys. I'm no longer selling the widget. I'm no longer carrying the widget. So then here's where the rest of that circle gets completed. Then the government comes back in and says, oh, you know what? Well, we price controlled the one side, but we didn't price control the other side. So then they try to go to the producers, right? And they say, well, hey, we're going to price control what you can charge. And then at the same time, producers in the same predicament, well, I can't make any money off of this. So I'm just going to stop doing it. And at that level, at the manufacturer level, that's where you get the government saying, well, we're just going to step in and we will quote unquote nationalize it, which you don't hear that word anymore, but we're just going to nationalize it and we're just going to take it over. And if anybody's dealt with the Postal Service or Amtrak, you know how well run government businesses are. And that's exactly what happens. And what that is, what's a shame about it is one, you've got so many people, so many thoughts with this thing. You got so many people that are applauding it. But I think what's disheartening most about this, and we've been texting back and forth on this, even if Trump wins this election, what's so disheartening is you're going to have 70 million plus people that still vote for that lady. That's the danger. That's the dangerous part because they will win eventually. If not this election, they will win eventually. And what that tells me is that, well, by popular vote, the majority of the people out there that are voting want it that way and just have no basic understanding of, economics, have clearly never read a history book. Hey, just look at the fall of the Soviet Union, right? There are a lot of other things involved in that. But you know who imposes those price controls? It's generally communist nations. I seriously thought you guys were joking when you guys texted it. I'm like, man, somebody dumb just tweeted this or whatever or tricked it. No, it was Kamala Harris. Absolutely unbelievable, man. Hey, thanks for the softball question.
So the other part to that, what usually happens somewhere in there is, you're correct. It's a shortage because people people go out and they start hoarding it. They're buying it at that government discount. And then the government realizes they're on the back, before they get to that backside piece, they're like, uh-oh, we've got to ration this.
That's right.
And so the government steps in and they come up with some arbitrary rationing process for whatever that good is that they're mandating to set prices on, which makes everything, it makes everything 100 times worse. They're not even, on the whole communism thing, they're not even hiding it anymore. Like they're not even trying to hide it. If you go back and you look at Kamala's voting record when she was in the Senate, she was the most far left senator there was. All right. She is to the left of Pocahontas. She is to the left of Cory Booker.
Bernie Sanders.
She is to the left of Bernie Sanders, which, I mean, dude, can you get any more left of Bernie Sanders? You can. Her name's Kamala Harris. So, and then you take a look at Tim Walz. You guys remember, and this is one of the things that kind of asses me up about about X. I posted some stupid comment that turned around and got a couple hundred likes and got 20,000 something views, and it was something dumb, right? Like pineapple doesn't go on pizza or something, whatever, which is true, but that's for another episode. And then you guys remember that West Point candidate who wrote inside his cover, "Communism will win," and then he had the Che Guevara shirt on under his tunic. So I put a picture of him up, and then I put a picture of Tim Walz's basic training, photo up. And I was like, corporate, did the whole office meme thing. Corporate wants you to find the difference in these pictures. Be like, they're the same picture. Tim Walz has come out time and time again and said that socialism makes good neighbors. That's a direct quote. Socialism is just being a good neighbor. You have Kamala Harris calling for price controls, which is a I mean, that is a feature of every single communist government that's ever been in existence. And yet, Americans, like you said, 70 million Americans are going to go out and they're going to vote for that. And that's why I said what I said earlier. At this point, what is required, what is going to be required, a lot of people don't have the stomach for. Um, and I made the comment on my on my personal Facebook page the other day that the majority of Americans do not deserve freedom. And one of my buddies was like, "No, they deserve it because they're by virtue of being Americans, they deserve it." And I was like, I used to think that way. We watched a former president almost get assassinated within an eighth of an inch of being assassinated. Immediately afterwards, we watched a coup happen in real time in the United States. Even Biden has come out and said, yeah, they asked me to step down because the poll numbers showed I couldn't win. So they asked me to step down after voters went to the polls in the primary and said, you're our guy. We are attaching
14 million. 14 million people.
We are attaching our cart to you. You're our guy. They turned around and they threatened him with the 25th Amendment to kick him out of office, kick him out of the, the campaign, not run again. And you know what? You know what the left did? A lot of America, they cheered it. They applauded it. You've got the two, the ticket. Is that any good? I'll get your opinion on it here in a minute.
Yeah. For Mick Ultra, I mean, it's got more flavor than your typical 4-card beer or whatever it is.
It's so now you have the presidential and the vice presidential candidate for the left, out there spouting, I mean, just straight up communist policies and saying that socialism makes good neighbors. And people are gleefully going to go to the polls for that. They're going to gleefully go to the polls and they're going to vote for it. And this country is going to get the administration that it deserves, one way or the other.
It's a vibes thing. I think people are too stupid to realize that price controls are a feature of communism, first of all. But deserves got nothing to do with it, right? Like Josie Wells, because you kind of when we say those words, they deserve this, they don't deserve freedom. You got to look back at what the Constitution says, right? We're basically endowed with our Creator with these inalienable rights. We were born with these rights. This is what the Creator endowed upon us. So you're born with it, right? Now, this is where deserve gets kind of tricky, because if you allow those to be taken away from you, if you allow something given by God to be taken away from you, that's where it gets tricky, right? You see what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not judging somebody saying just because you're not willing to go fight for your country means you don't deserve your rights endowed by the Creator. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if somebody serenely allows their rights given to you by God to be taken away, well, there's definitely a problem there. And I understand why it happens, man. We were talking about it, we talk about it all the time. People get comfortable. Do you want to be comfortable or do you want to be free? Most people just want to be comfortable. I truly believe that. And some people were born into communism in the Soviet Union, and they died under communism. They never knew those types of freedoms that were granted to them by their Creator. It was man that took those away from them. So I guess what I'm getting at is, where the rubber meets the road, when these things start getting taken away from us, we have to fight back somehow, however that looks. And at some point, that's going to involve sacrificing a little comfort. It is. And I'm telling you, most people are not going to want to do it. They're not going to do it because it's uncomfortable. Well, I've got a fat bank account. I pay all my bills on time. I got nice cars, all this stuff. I mean, you don't want to give that up just because the Harris administration imposed, a price control for, $5. It can't go over $5 for a dozen eggs. Oh, well. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just it's
Yeah.
that lulling to sleep. It's that frog in the, you know, in the water turning up the heat. That's what it is. And I don't think somebody's twisting their mustache like we're going to get to the final, you know, state of communism. It's not that. It's just a natural progression toward these things. You know, and I got a little deep there. I'm sorry, but you know, I'll just, you know, with the price controls thing, it's very simple. Increased demand, decreased supply causes a shortage. Market equilibrium is disrupted. You know, there's reduced incentive for producers. Black markets are created, which ends up jacking up the price. You know, when
We
that
just went through
rationing,
this with toilet paper like 2 years
yeah,
ago, right?
when the
No, no,
rationing,
yeah,
when the rationing starts happening, the black markets emerge, and then you start paying
yep.
more for the prices. It's like you can't. This is why I really believe in the free market economy so much, because you can't control this stuff, man. It's its own beast. Good luck. You can't tame it. Just let it go. There have to be limited controls on it, but for the most part, it's got to be laissez-faire. And you know what? Sometimes things like the 2008 housing crash, sometimes that happens. And then we got to back up and be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Nobody really benefited from that. That, you know, so you got to tighten it up just a little bit and then let it go. Tighten it up, let it go. But trying to control it, it
But
doesn't
even that
happen.
was caused primarily by the
Yes,
Glass-Steagall
you're
Act,
right.
right? That government
Glass-Steagall,
intervention.
sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Because I'm sorry, Josh, because
no, go ahead.
taking risk was underwritten.
Yes.
If that risk was not underwritten, remember AIG when they folded? That's what really caused everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, the risk was supposed to be underwritten, and in reality, it wasn't. And that's what all those guys in The Big Short, that's what they actually saw, is like, holy crap. The reason they're taking this risk is that they think it's guaranteed, and it's not. There's no way it can be guaranteed, and that was the synthetic CDO. But sorry, Josh, I kind of went off there. You can go ahead, man.
No. You're absolutely right. That was a great point. Back to back to your to your point about inalienable rights. I agree 100% with what you said. The way I look at it is, yes, absolutely right. We are born with inalienable rights endowed by our Creator, but when people go out and actively vote, when they actively support people who are taking those rights away, well, then you no longer deserve it. Those people, right? If I go out and beg somebody like, "Hey, I want you in charge, and I know you're going to take my rights away, but I don't care. I know you're going to do this, but I don't care. I agree with this." Then I, hey, man, you don't deserve it. That's just that's just kind of the way I look at it. Um, and that's why I used to be on board with the whole, everybody, every single American, regardless of their political choice, deserves freedom. No, they don't. The people out there voting for candidates who are espousing Marxist ideas, guess what? You don't deserve freedom. It's just it's how it is. You don't deserve it, and whether you served or not, it doesn't matter. That's regardless. You just don't deserve it. If you're willing to give it up like that, you don't deserve it. And
Yeah,
you're
it's
right,
like,
but it's people are going to have to be uncomfortable to to right this ship. And I go ahead.
oh, I was just I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying, because back to my point, it's like I don't want to make this religious or anything, but it's almost like the sinner just actively going to Satan and accepting that lifestyle.
Yeah,
Just accepting it. It's like, now again, like we said 2 episodes ago or whatever it is, I'm not going to judge, man. That's on God. But at the same time, it's like, well, it looks to me like they're embracing that. So, maybe, just maybe, I'm not going to, put my hand out for them or piss on them if they're on fire. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, 100%.
And it's not even a deserve thing. And it's not even a taking. They're taking from us. Unfortunately, there's 70 million people out there, plus, if not 80, more popular than Barry, right? That are going to give it up. They are and that's the point. They are willfully giving. They are taking it from us, and they're going to take it from folks that listen to our show and watch our show, except for the one FBI crony that's forced to sit there and listen and watch. But they're going to take it
recruit
from
that
us.
guy.
He's going to steer away, or she, whatever, they, them, whatever. They're going to take it from us. But 70 million people plus give it up. And what worries me is when you look at the state of our economy, and we've been saying this for years, right? Now, is every bit of the economy in shambles? Of course not. Okay. But that's the way it happens. Like you don't see recessions coming. Well, we saw recessions coming, we saw inflation or whatever, but generally speaking, it's there. It happens, right? And there's this slow build up, and you got some positives in this and that. But I tell you what, there is so much spin on X right now. And that's where it seems like I spend the majority of my social media time. The more that they try to convince you that everything is just fine, it's the burning trash can in the dumpster, right? Or the little dog with the house on fire.
It's
Hey, man,
Baghdad Bob.
everything's fine, man. It's all good. And the more you tell people that, right, because you're trying to lull them into that calm, and that's what leads to that 1,000-point drop, that we saw in the market. And I'm telling you, it is coming. And what happens is, as more and more people become not only uncomfortable, but no longer can provide the basic necessities to survive, more and more people start to ask for those type of controls. The government needs to step in. They need to do something, and they start to ask for it. I had a conversation with my son today because he's now got a couple full-time paychecks underneath his belt, and he does well, man. I mean, he makes good money. He's got good benefits. He makes more than the, for folks that live in Mesa and their average salary, he makes more than they do, which is a good thing coming out of college. And they're like, hey, you're doing well. And his whole thing is like, Dad, I can't even afford to go buy a house right now. Like, I don't see in the foreseeable future that I can afford to go out and buy a house. He's like, even to go rent a 1-2 bedroom apartment is going to be $1,900 a month. He's like, nobody can afford that. And so as these people are out here on X every day telling you how great the economy is, Krugman, right? Oh, we're all good, Kramer. No, it's all good, man. It's just a blip. Dude, it's coming. And it's been coming, right? It's been coming. And the thing is, it's the change in verbiage. It goes back to the term inflation rate from inflation. Oh, you're paying less. Gavin Newsom, as Trump would call him, Newscum. He came out the other day and was like, no, man, energy prices are lower than, he's like, we're doing better than Texas in energy. And, and I forget who it was. Somebody was posting like, dude, it's like 20 cents a kilowatt hour in Texas. And it's like 75 cents a kilowatt hour in California. It's come to the point now where it is just outright lying, and nobody's holding them accountable for it. And what I hope, I hope and I pray, and I've said this several times in text groups back and forth with us or you guys about being disheartened. I hope and I pray during this election that more people see through this. I truly, truly hope. And I'm not saying they're going to vote Trump. I really think a lot of this stuff, and we can go down that road in a little bit, but as far as voter turnout, it's really going to be eye-opening to see how many people actually come and write, or check the Kamala Harris block. Now, we know there's going to be a significant portion. She'll at least get 60 or 70 million. But man, you start pushing 75, 80, maybe even more than 80 million. Do you beat Joe Biden's number and hit like 82 million people? Dude, that is going to be extremely disheartening. I want to change it up a little bit.
Can I make one more thing? One more thing.
Yep.
Because I meant to say this, but I started going off on some.
Well, do that and then move on to Tim Walsh, because that's the one that fires me up.
Okay. No, I'll kick it to you after I make this one point. And this is due to Josh. Josh posted this thing, and I was like, yeah, because somebody said, hey, explain to me inflation like I'm a kindergartner or a golden retriever, because I don't understand why the government's saying it's coming down, but prices are still high. So some genius out there, it's like, why didn't I think of that? So let me put it to you this way. I've been eating a lot of ice cream and drinking a lot of Guinness. In fact, that's all I'm doing. I'm just eating high-fat foods, potato chips. So it's been 6 months or however long. The first month I gained 10 pounds. The next month, I cut down on the ice cream a little bit. I gained 7. The next month, I started out 200 pounds, by the way. The next month, I only gained 5 pounds. And the month after that, I gained 3. So I'm losing the amount of weight I'm gaining, but I still weigh 230 pounds. That's how it works. It's very simple. It's like, yes, that's, we start talking percentages, and I think that people just shut their minds off. CPI and, core, PPI and all that stuff. People's brains just shut down, but you don't understand. It's like, yeah, that was a genius explanation. So Tim Waltz, go ahead.
I'll kick it over to Josh. I know he's got some comments with that and Afghanistan. So what's your thoughts on the whole Tim Walsh fiasco? Put it that way.
Dude, All right. So, I don't the whole dude, the whole thing's a shit show. All right. So he was a battalion command sergeant major, and he decided he's like, I'm retiring to to turn around and so I can go run for Congress. Okay. You don't do that after you know that your unit is going to Iraq. You're deploying. You're the command sergeant major. You're not Private Schmuckatelli, somewhere in a line platoon, but you're the command sergeant major. You don't get to pull pitch, as your guys are going out the door. And one, and two, you're frocked, right? You haven't been to PME, you haven't been to USASMA, and I don't even think you even enrolled in USASMA. From what I saw,
Hell no.
right? And so that part is bad, right? That part, hey, you kind of you left your unit in a lurch, a little bit, by bouncing, and people are like, well, he dropped his retirement, papers before the official orders came down, so and you're trying to explain to some of these idiots about warning orders. I remember back in, everybody remembers this, back in the '04 through '07, '08, the Army Times published that patch chart every week. You knew which units were slated to go, when they were slated to go, and those units knew a year out when they were going. When my striker brigade deployed to Iraq, we knew a year. We knew down to the month when we were deploying, 12 months out. We knew. So, for Tim Ball to be like, well, we didn't get our official orders. It's like, shut up. Like, warning orders are a thing. All right. So that part's bad enough, right? So he gets out, he retires. Since he didn't complete PME, he retires as a master sergeant. But when you go back and you look at his congressional coin and his Twitter bio, back in the day, he had command sergeant major rank on there. He identified himself as a command sergeant major. It's like, no, but you weren't, right? It's like another guy that we know, claims he retired. He's a retired sergeant major. Like, no, you're not. You're a master sergeant. Hey, man, it's fine. It is what it is, right? I came out on the promotion list, after my, right before I retired. I don't identify myself as that next rank. I didn't retire as that, right? My retired ID card says 2 on it, and that's fine. It is what it is. It's fine. No shame. But probably the most egregious thing out of all this is he has played the game to where he's insinuated and inferred that he's a combat veteran, that he stepped foot in a war zone when he didn't, because he abandoned his unit right before they left. Nancy Pelosi introduced him at some event, like, he's a veteran of the war in Afghanistan, Representative Tim Walz. So Tim Walz got up there and shook his head. It's like, thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And then he went on and gave a speech. He didn't correct it. I'm pretty confident I can speak for the three of us. If somebody inferred that we were, whatever, and we weren't, hey, we would probably be the first ones to be like, hey, I just want to be, I want to clarify this. Like, I am not a, whatever that was, right? Here's what I am, right? I'm an intel nerd. That's it. It's fine. I am comfortable with that because that's what I chose to do. And then he got up and, he was pushing anti-gun legislation, the weapons of war that I carried in war. That, to me, that is more egregious than putting CSM rank on your congressional challenge coin. To me. Anyway, right? Because you're inferring that you're a combat veteran. That, dude, Donald Trump has seen more shots in anger than Tim Walz has. That's the guy's honest truth. You stand up there and you infer that, and you're trying to push legislation by that, it's stolen valor. That's all it is. It's stolen valor, plain and simple. But again, 70 million people in this country aren't going to care. Don't care. They don't care about it. They're like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, he misspoke. Like, no, he did not misspeak. It was multiple times. He put it on his coin. Like, you had it in his Twitter. Like, you don't know. That's not I misspoke at an event, right? Oh, I didn't, I got called to the car. I got asked a question. I was flying. I didn't know how to answer it. So I misspoke. My bad. Like, no, dude, they know misspoke. But 70 million people in this country aren't going to care. They don't care. And that's the damn shame of it. And then you have veterans coming out and defending this guy for it.
Clowns.
It's wild. Wild.
Dude, it's clowns, and you hit it on the head. It is straight stolen valor. This one here pisses me off. And I was sitting, I was back in DC visiting, and I was with my wife, and we were sitting down with some of her folks that are on the left side of the aisle and working some of the political arena there. And I asked them, said, "What do you think about the VP pick?" And they brought up, or I brought up the whole stolen valor thing or whatever. I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. But no, actually, it is. And I mentioned the same points Josh just did, and it hits close because, like, one, let me tell you this: I am a USASMA grad, so let me tell you exactly what happened here, right? And the way the Army works as far as promotions at that level, it's a select, train, educate, promote system. So they select him for E9, Sergeant Major. You go through your necessary training, which is your PME and your education. So you go to the Sergeant Major Academy, and then once you graduate, you come back, your number comes out on a list, and in a year or whatever you pin on, and then you have to hold the rank for 3 years. Okay, that is how you retire as a sergeant major or whatever rank, any senior rank, any rank, right? And there's no big deal. You retire as an E8 or an E7. Nobody cares. Hey, dude, you did 24 years, you did 22 years, whatever the case is, you did 20 years, retired as an E6 or whatever the case is. Like, you can run on that as being a veteran. But to sit there and lie about your rank, and then to sit there and turn around like, oh, well, and finally the campaign had to come out and say, oh, he misspoke. No, you didn't misspoke. You lied. It's stolen valor. You ran on it. Your office ran on it. It's on your challenge coins. You've brought it up yourself. So that piece there just pissed me off. That fired me up by itself. And then when you get to the Afghanistan piece, dude, there are hundreds of hours, and I'm being a little sarcastic there. There are plenty of interviews where it's where he conflates a couple different stories, right? I remember watching the caskets, in Kabul or Bagram or whatever the hell he said. Well, he conflated that when he was active duty or in the National Guard and tried to make it sound like he was there serving when, in fact, he went to go visit when he was a congressman, right? So he told two stories, kind of meshed them together so you couldn't really parse the line there. He went to Italy. Not a big deal. I get it, man. We all don't get to choose where we go and where we deploy and this and that. He went to Italy, and it's like, hey, OEF was specifically 3 theaters. Majority of it was Afghanistan. You had a small ops, I think, in the Philippines, and then you had a piece in Africa. And those were very, very specific. Like, that is OEF. If you did not go to those 3, dude, you didn't deploy for OEF. Right? You didn't have a right shoulder combat patch.
There is not, dude. I have never, ever, 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 until Tim Walls, ever heard anybody that did not go to, like you said, the Horn of Africa, Afghanistan, or the Philippines call themselves an OEF veteran. Never. I've never heard that. I've never heard anybody that did not go to one of those 3 places be like, oh, I'm a veteran of OEF. Because they know when you say I'm an OEF veteran, there's an inference there. Like, I have been to the Horn of Africa, Afghanistan, or like you said, CJ Soda for the Philippines. That
I've heard a
no
few.
way.
I've heard a few Air Force cats imply that they're deploying, and they were going to Kuwait. I've heard that, but I've never heard them call themselves OEF vets. But I guess that's just the path he wanted to go. And it's not going to make a difference. It's not at all. I'm trying to call out JD Vance. He only served 4 years. Perhaps he's the coward. It's like, what? And he was never in combat. He was a combat correspondent. And it's like all this stuff. It's like, it's not even worth my energy to try. I say it's not worth my energy. Occasionally I will comment, but you guys know, there were fobbits everywhere. I mean, very few people actually went outside the wire, but hey, let's be fair, man. Rockets were flying in. It's like, it wasn't a risk-free environment down there, in Afghanistan and Iraq. So everybody had their part. but whatever. And JD Vance's enlistment was up. Whatever. It's like I I'm Tim Waltz. I'm more concerned, not concerned. I'm waiting for the Howard Dean moment because he is just right on the edge of that Howard Dean. Yeah, he's right on the edge at every moment. The guy
We're
is
taking Vermont, New
he's a
Hampshire, Virginia. Ah,
yeah. He's he's creepy. He's creepy. And I'm just waiting for it. I'm like you, Roger. I'm
It's
waiting for
weird.
people to see. Yeah, and the whole weird thing. Like I'm done with that too. You guys said it all with Waltz. You guys said it all. Josh had a good point today, and I'm going to kick it right to you. I think this is a good transition because you have some comments on Afghanistan. But a couple days ago, the Taliban had their little military parade on Bagram Airfield. At least it looked like it was BAF. It might have been KIA, but either way, there's all these vehicles. Some of them have been spray painted or wrapped or whatever, and it's just like it's ghetto. But they were in pretty good formation. I'll give them that. I mean, it was a decent, like the clips I saw, decent little parade. Not bad. It's all our equipment. Some old Russian stuff. My question was, and Josh had a good point, and it obviously occurred to me, Sean Ryan has really been pulling the cover back on how much aid we're actually giving the Taliban now. But my question was, with the aircraft flying through the air, I have a little experience flying on quote unquote Afghan aircraft. Mm-hmm. There are pilots that know how to fly helicopters and fixed wing. There are a couple dudes still there that know how to fly jets, believe it or not. They flew MiGs back in the day. But the big thing with flying aircraft is anyone will tell you that has any experience, in aviation, is it's not necessarily the flying, it's the maintenance. The maintenance is what keeps those things in the air. It's not the pilots. And as I see these helicopters flying around, I talked to a few maintenance crews in Afghanistan, and all the maintenance crews were U.S. contractors. And the Afghans, it's like they make the Afghans go sit in the corner while they're maintaining the aircraft because it's like, we can't F around with this. It's like, who's maintaining the aircraft? It's not Afghans. This is definitely not Afghans. So is it Pakistanis? What is it? And Josh is like, well, we're giving them all that aid, so there's plenty of people who would take that job. And 100%. But it's like, man, who is that? It's got to be Pakistani contractors. Got to be. Or maybe Russian contractors. I don't know. But I thought, I still struggle with the pullout from Afghanistan. I still struggle with that for a lot of reasons. It had to happen sooner or later. The way it was done was awful. I think we should still have a presence there personally, limited. But I still struggle with that pullout. And I imagine Josh's comments might have a little bit to do with that. I'm not sure. Kamala was the last one in the room. But anyway, Josh, take it away. You had some comment.
Yeah. So, circling back to Sean Ryan, who has the second best podcast out there after C3. He did an interview, episode 107. He sat down with a guy called Legend. So Legend is a former U.S. Army Intel NCO. He's he's an American, but he's of Afghan descent, and he really broke out. Legend really broke out, because of his contacts back in Afghanistan. He broke out how much we're giving them per week. The United States is giving Afghanistan, and the Taliban run Afghanistan. They are the government. They run every facet of the government. We give them approximately $40 million every single week. $40 million every single week, and that is since 2021. All right, that is since the pullout. So do the math on that real quick. When you look at it, that's why when Sean Ryan made that comment, like, who's maintaining this stuff? Because they did, like, the MRAPs, hey, they were moving. They weren't, this wasn't a still photo. Like, there's videos, like, those things are moving. Rotary wing aircraft are flying, both Black Hawks and, some of that old Russian stuff. I got a great story about flying on one of those things from fob to fob. Holy moly. I'll tell it later. And so it's not going to be hard. You think of how many countries around the world use U-860s. How many countries have we sold those things to? Along with all the labor and parts and all that POL that goes along with it. There's plenty of non-US companies who know how to maintain those. And when you're making $40 million a week for years and years, hey, you probably hire one of those companies to maintain it and get pieces and parts, right? So that's it's not difficult. Uh, so today, 15 August, it kicks off really, I mean, the downfall was already happening. But, today, and, like you, man, struggle with it, demoralizing. That's how the Afghan withdrawal was to me, especially sitting there watching it on TV and not being able to be there, to, to help, to do something. You feel helpless sitting on your couch watching it happen. Um, and especially when it's something bad like that. So today was the day that the Taliban retook Kabul. Everybody remembers the photos. So it's 15 August. Everybody remembers the photos of the C-17s, rolling down the strip, and Afghanis running after them, Afghanis, clinging to the side of them, Afghanis, getting caught in the wheel well after it closed, and so that's tomorrow, right? That anniversary is tomorrow. And then 10 days from tomorrow, August 26th, is the suicide bombing at Abbey Gate, right? Where 13 service members lost their lives. And, then Joe Biden, wants to stand up there at the debate and say no U.S. service member died under his watch, which we all know is a, complete lie. But listen, I don't know if you guys listened to that episode, with Legend. It's episode 107 of the Sean Ryan Show, but Legend breaks it down. How China has moved in. China is giving the Taliban more weapon systems for access to all the rare earth minerals that are located in in Afghanistan. There's been approximately, and Luke knows this better than any of us. There's been about 115 to 120,000 Afghan refugees that have come across the southern border, since the withdrawal, and not all of them have been vetted. And that we now know that all of those refugees that came over to the States, not across the southern border, but we flew them in. Are figuring out that hey man, some of these dudes, like some of these guys are actually on the JPEL. It was like, hey, why is this task thingamajig? Why is it showing up in in Northern Virginia? I'm like, oh yeah, that's Ahmed. He used to have an objective name. Now he's living in Burke, Virginia, on the USG's dime. And the Pakistanis have also been supporting, obviously, the Pakistanis, ISI, been supporting the Taliban as well with a lot of funds. So like Luke, I still struggle with with the Afghan withdrawal, and the way it went down, and the lack of accountability. Not one person, from the elected official side, from the civilian civil servant side, nor the military side, has been held to task and held accountable for the way all that that went down. Not one. And that's probably what's just frustrating more than anything else, is the lack of accountability. We had friends that died in the mud there, and I don't necessarily know what it was for. I really don't.
Dude, I'd be willing to bet there wasn't one bad OER or NCOER bullet from that whole pullout. That's a shame.
Yeah.
It's like you're saying, it's the accountability. And I'll use one of Luke's terms here. It's being memory hold. I've seen a little bit of it on Fox with the C-17 and this and that, but I would tell you this, and not to take away from what Luke and Josh had just said, but you roll into the Trump campaign and whatever they're doing on that side of the house. That stuff should be on air 24/7, especially these next 2-3 weeks, dude. That's all I'm airing, man. Those are all the ads that I'm running, because I tell you, it's no longer the needless loss of life. It pisses me off because you got 3 nugs like us that sit here and like, man, this is not good. Oh no, man, it'll take them at least 6 months to push through this line. Like, dude, it's going to take them maybe 6 days. I don't even think we cut through another episode before they cut through their red line, right? And the next thing you know, they're in Kabul. It's like, it's inflation, it's everything. It's everything to do with this administration. Everything. Anything they touch, it's like what Barry said, right? What he said about Joe. It's like, dude, he is going to F it up. And the problem with this here is not only did he F it up, but he costs lives and there's zero accountability. Somebody should have quit. But I mean, like Luke said, you had a Secret Service, agent or the director who's like, yeah, I know we almost had, an ex-president assassinated, but they had to force her to resign because there was zero accountability. There's zero responsibility. And I'll tell you this, I tweeted it yesterday or I texted it. This goes back to the Barry years. There's just a lack of personal responsibility for everything. And that's, that's really the failure. When you look at that administration, this administration, above and beyond everything else, it is the lack of accountability and the lack of personal responsibility. And I'm talking about everything from student loans to debts, to jobs, to education, to the economy, to, hey man, it ain't my fault. It's somebody else's fault. And I need somebody else to come fix it. It's heartbreaking.
It's breeding incompetence, that lack of accountability. It's breeding incompetence, this sense of entitlement. And I thought you were going to say the Secret Service agent. There's a couple of things I saw today that just really burned my biscuit. That's my new thing. That's nice. I like that. You got a little bucket there. It's like you're at a party.
Yeah, my wife got tired of running back and forth.
So there was a Secret Service agent, female, on Trump's detail in North Carolina, I believe. And I'm surprised this came out in the media, actually. But I think his Secret Service kind of like, leaking things out. It's like, hey, we need to, kind of repair our reputation. But somebody was doing the rounds and saw that one Secret Service agent was not on her post. So it's like, where is this person? They should be on their post. They left their post. Where are they? This female Secret Service agent had not checked in. They're looking for her, and they find her in a room designated as like a kind of a safe room. So if something happens, they're going to come back to this room. They found her in this safe room, nursing her child with another family member there. She had left her post without reporting to go nurse her child while protecting a candidate, the Republican candidate for president of the United States, who just got shot, by the way, 3.5 weeks ago. What the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? It's like, I'm not going to get into the female thing and all this stuff, but hey, perhaps maybe if you have to nurse a child, maybe you shouldn't be on protective detail. She actually snuck her family members in there. Unbelievable. It wasn't just the child. It was another family member. I assume it was the husband. I don't know. But it's just like, what the hell? And then Josh posted a video of the female police officer who gets like had a really rough time with a dude. Like, and hey, man, some male officers could have a rough time too. Oh, okay, I get it. But, I won't lean completely on the female thing. A bystander had to help her out. But then she says, as another responding officer comes up, she says, I'm pregnant. She goes, I'm pregnant. She tells the responding officer, I'm pregnant. I don't know. And it's like, what the hell is a pregnant female doing on the beat? Why is this happening to our society? It's like, I guess I'm just a male chauvinist, sexist, whatever, but those women need to be protected. That woman doesn't need to be on Secret Service detail. She needs to be home taking care of that child, because being on protective detail is not helping that child at all. That female who is pregnant, that got in a scuffle with that dude who very well could have killed her and the child she's carrying, should not have been on duty. What the hell is she doing out there? We're losing our mooring is what we're doing. As a society, as a culture, we're losing our mooring. I'm reading Josh's comment. Yeah, exactly. I will guard everything within the just your general order. I would guard everything within the limits of my post.
They only found
my post only
it's
with
easy, right?
relief, even if my kid is thirsty. Period.
And supposedly they found out because they were doing a last minute check because the motorcade was getting ready to pull up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess she was like, "Oh, I got 60 seconds real quick. Let me go ahead and knock this out." And I think you hit it on the head, Luke. You're starting to see a lot of these leaks because a lot of those fellows, guys, gals, I mean, they're out there doing their jobs and they're kicking ass and they're tired of being pooped on. They're tired of being pooped on by incompetence, by DEI hires, all this other stuff going around. And I think you're going to start seeing more of this stuff. You're going to start hearing more of it. And it's going to sound bad at first, but it needs to happen because you have to out these people. Because next, it's like, again, we talk about the canary in the coal mine. I mean, how long ago was it where we had a chief justice or a justice, SCOTUS justice that was targeted? And then you had Scalise, literally shot. And then you had the Trump incident. Like, what else are we waiting for?
They are actively trying to get Trump killed. They are actively doing it. They are doing everything except for putting the gun in somebody's hand and pulling the trigger. I mean, just that level of egregiousness. Like, if the system worked how it should, right? And I agree with Luke. We're losing our board. If the system worked how it should, neither one of them would have been on the job that they were doing. Hey, all right, you're pregnant. You do not need to be on the street as a police officer wrestling with suspects. Because that video that Luke referenced, that dude. I mean, there was a Good Samaritan stopped a male. Good Samaritan stopped and helped her, and this dude put that. I mean, he put that dude in an arm bar. But even then, even that guy who knew what he was doing still had a problem with this guy. Had he not shown up, Luke spot on. Had he not shown up, that dude would have killed that female police officer. He would have killed her because she tased him and it didn't do any good. And she was getting hysterical. She was losing, she was losing control of the situation. And that dude could have easily killed her. And that's probably what would have happened. But at what point in your decision-making process, you're standing guard, right? This is your post. This is, I was told to stay here, and check IDs. Nobody gets through here, secure the area. At what point in your decision-making process did you go, you know what? I have something else I need to go do, and I'm going to go do that. I'm just not going to tell anybody that I'm leaving this area unsecure. Like, at what point in your process you go, that's COA number one. That's the COA that I'm going with. It's not incompetence at this point. I'm telling you, they are intentionally trying to get that dude killed. Why are you bringing your child? If your child is still young enough to be breastfed, like Luke said, you shouldn't be at work, right? You should not be there. Number two, why are you bringing your kid there anyway? Why? Is it bring your kid to work day at the Secret Service while you're on, protection detail? What if something goes bad? What if something really bad happens? You have your kid there?
Well, they were in the
Are you
presidential
nuts?
emergency room, so if something went bad, the kid and the Secret Service agent were going to be fine because that was the emergency shelter.
Dude, it's absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. You have that, not even, dude, not to mention everything else, that you have going on in the news right now. With agencies abusing authorities, agencies abusing their powers, and it
Dude, the taping of the
all,
camera thing. What
dude,
in the
what,
living heck?
dude, and again, no accountability, none whatsoever,
Well, tell them what happened.
none.
Tell them what happened.
Lay it out,
So
Ron.
basically there was I think it was it a Harris rally or something like that. One of the candidates was coming through and they cordon, the area off and they
Yeah,
close businesses or whatever. It's their motorcades coming through this area. And so basically they kick everybody out. Then I guess the Secret Service agent, and I think it was a female who actually taped it,
yep,
had to go take a piss. And it was a salon, right? Was it a salon?
yeah,
I think, yeah.
yep,
So it was a salon. She goes up there, puts a piece of tape over the Ring camera or Nest camera or whatever over the door so you can't see, picks the lock on the door, goes in, takes a leak, and then of course now from here, it's all just sources reporting, basically just left the door open. So that this became the pee hole. Like if you get stuck in an elevator, right, like the office, and it's like, hey, you have to establish the pee hole or the pee corner. That became the pee corner. So it's like, hey, anybody's got to take a leak, we just go in the salon thing. So basically breaking and entering. picked the lock, went in there, probably took a dump and didn't even flush. Everybody else went in there, probably left a daggum double decker, right? And then didn't even lock the door when they left. I mean, like that's B&E where I'm from. Like, what gives you the right or the authority? And here's the thing: you know what will happen to those agents that did that? Nothing.
Nothing. No. What should happen? Every single one of them that did that should be arrested. They should be
Yes.
arrested.
Oh,
Local
absolutely.
law enforcement,
Absolutely.
local law enforcement should get a judge, issue arrest warrants, and they should
Yes.
go. Those police officers should go and find those agents and arrest them for breaking and entering. At what point did you say that's code number one? We're
They're
just
above
gonna
the law.
go exactly
And
because there's
you
no
know what? They're
accountability.
right though. They're right because what's going to happen? Nothing.
Yeah,
You know,
no, 100%.
you get the statement, you know, this is an open investigation, so Secret Service isn't going to comment on this. But I'm telling you right now, you're going to hear more and more of these stories, and it's going to sound bad because it is bad. And what you got to realize is this has been going on for years now. And I think you're going to hear these stories because the good men and women in there that are kicking their ass, you know, out there doing their job and, you know, they're laying their life on the line. They're tired of being pooped on. They're tired of being pooped on by incompetent DEI hires, period. Or just incompetence in general. It's not even a DEI hire. They're pissed off about it. And I'm telling you, you're going to hear more leaks about it. And the only thing you can hope for is that there's some accountability that's going to be held.
I'm waiting for the good men and women of the FBI to do the same thing. So far, we haven't heard from any good men and women from the FBI. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there aren't any.
Well, just tell the
We'll
guy or
see.
gal who's listening to our show. I mean,
No,
let's
it's
throw that stuff away.
it was the girl, the person that's listening to our show is she's breastfeeding her child right now.
Right.
She said,
Yeah.
I had to put it on mute. My baby was trying to sleep. Their annoying
Exactly.
voices were keeping my kid awake.
You guys remember? So real quick, while we're talking about people who listen to our podcast, you guys remember we were like tracking? We were like, there's a listener in Taiwan, and we were like, that's a dude. That's a 2 PLA guy. Like that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
Ministry of Security guy. No, it turned out to be James. He was TDY. He was when he was stationed in Okinawa. He was
My man.
TDY to Taiwan. Yeah, and we were like, "Who is this person listening to Taiwan?" We are like, "This got to be right. It's got to be like a Ministry of State Security, like Chinese." You know, it's a bit like, "Oh man, I gotta," because we had been talking a lot about China around that time too, and it popped up and was like, "Oh yeah." Now it turned out it was like he hit me up one day. We were BSing. He was like, "Yeah, man, it would when I was in Taiwan, working." He was like, "Yeah, listening to you guys," because he was in Taiwan for COVID, and so they got quarantined in the hotel for like 2 weeks.
Oh,
I wonder how long it took him to figure out we were talking about him. He's like, oh, yeah, 2 PLA. What? They're talking about me.
Yeah, I don't know.
is this big game or skinny?
Yeah, no, big game.
Does skinny
Yeah.
listen?
I don't know.
Skinny should listen. I want to change the subject slightly. So, and Roger walks away because you didn't get to listen to it, Josh. But this will branch off into other things. I think the best move that the Trump campaign has done so far is that Twitter live feed. It was amazing. That's exactly the direction that we called 3 years ago. How long are we doing this podcast? It's like long form is the way it's going to start going.
Yeah.
And it happened to be one of the smartest men on the planet and one of the richest men on the planet talking to one of the most well-known men on the planet for 2 hours. It was a long conversation, and it was an interesting conversation. And Elon Musk actually pushed back on him a couple times. Like, hell yeah. He pushed back on him about government spending. And he knew what he was doing because he knows Trump spent a lot when he was Trump spent like a drunken sailor in Manila on payday when he was president. Same as George W. Bush. It's like there's no like fiscal conservative. So Elon was pushing him on that. I thought it was a brilliant move, man. So many impressions. It was like over 1 billion people viewed it for at least a little while. That's a lot of exposure. Okay. 1 billion is a lot of exposure, and that's worldwide, of course. And there's probably some people who bounced back in and got, but still you reached so many people. What a great thing. And earlier in the day, Trump got on Twitter and made 6 or 7 posts, and total those had like, I don't know, I'd have to look at the numbers, but probably around 2 million. 2 million views. So it's like you just reached something that probably didn't cost him anything. You know, it was mutually beneficial for Twitter and him. And then after that, I thought it was a huge success. But after that, he disappears from Twitter. And it's like, bro, I know you're contractually obligated to.
He did again. He
He
did post
did?
again earlier. I think it was earlier today. Yeah. I
Oh,
think it was
okay.
like
Well,
one
then
or two
good.
posts.
You know, that's a good sign because I know he's contractually obligated to True Social and those investors and everything. It's like, how bad do you want to win? Like, how bad do you want to win? You know, I think that was a really good move. I don't think Kamala Harris could last 10 minutes on a free form.
She would be undone.
Yeah.
You know, by something like that.
I know you didn't get to listen to it, Josh, but you got to read our texts about it. I mean, Trump did get on message eventually. You know, it's all right.
Yeah. No, I read your, I was, reading your guys' text about it. And then afterwards I saw, I heard snippets, of it, and everything. And, we've been talking about, like you said, we've been talking about this for a while. Like, we brought up Rogan at the time, like Trump should be he needs to go with Joe Rogan, sit down with Joe Rogan for a couple hours, because that's the way. And I think that's the way the debate should be too. Right? They should be moderated by guys like Musk and Rogan, and Matt Taibbi, and crew, but they should be hours long.
Why doesn't he do Rogan? I mean, he's the dude's been on every ABC, CBS,
Rogan,
and be like, why wouldn't he go on Rogan?
Joe Rogan has come out and said he doesn't want specifically Trump on there. He's come out and said that.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's changed it.
I don't think he wants any. He came back after that and he said that, it wasn't because it was just the, DJT, but he also said he did not want the leading candidate from the two major parties on his show.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, and this, I don't cut you off, Josh, sorry, but
no, go ahead.
And then, Trump, he'll do something like that. And it's like, it's good. It's what I want to hear. I don't know if it changed anybody's mind out there, but it definitely gave him a lot of exposure. And then, like the day after that, Joe Rogan made a comment about RFK Jr. on his podcast. It's like, I like RFK Jr. I think he's a good guy. And then it came out, the news started to spin that Joe Rogan endorses RFK Jr. And then the internet just went crazy. And Donald Trump actually put on True Social something like, something negative about Joe Rogan. It's like, what are you doing? Do not do that. Are you crazy?
But it did force it. There was enough impact with that Rogan had to come back out and make a clarifying statement.
That's
so
true.
I think it's crazy, like you guys, man. I like, hey, dude, that's not what you want to do. But there was enough blowback that it forced Joe Rogan to come back and say, I am not endorsing that dude, and he's going to vote Trump.
But the damage is already done. But it's the same thing with Kemp, right? When Trump came out and attacked Kemp, it's stupid. I mean, just cosmically stupid. Brian Kemp's a very popular governor. He needs Georgia. Trump needs Georgia, and you come out and you poo all over Brian, over Kemp.
No, the Kemp thing, I agree with. I mean, the Kemp thing makes no sense.
Like, really,
at all.
And the whole Rogan thing. Hey, you listen to it, you're like, oh, he said he likes RFK, Jr. And it's no secret that Rogan's an indie man. I mean, Rogan is, he does not like either major political party. It's not even, and so, you know what you do about that? You know what Donald Trump should have done in that situation?
Nothing.
Just kept quiet. Just shut up. Just shut up.
Be strategic. I think his ego takes over, dude.
Exactly.
Because here, let's talk about RFK Jr. for a second. There was that buzz. Remember when they were on the phone together, and then that pissed Trump off because they recorded it and all that stuff. And there were rumors that maybe Trump's going to pull him in. And then earlier this week, the reports were RFK Jr. approached Kamala and asked her, "Hey, I'll endorse you if you give me a spot in your cabinet." Now, is that true? I don't know, but it seemed strategically leaked. And then the backlash came out.
Thing that
and then the backlash came out. And earlier today, RFK Jr. comes out and tweets, I'm not going to endorse her. And then Shanahan says her thing. And it's like, is this guy, I'm starting to think Michael Malice is right. RFK Jr. may not be a good guy. He may just be a power-hungry sociopath who will do anything to get into power. Maybe he's right, because at this point, a complete whore.
Yeah, he's a political prostitute.
A whore.
So I don't know. And there's rumors about a shakeup within Trump, his campaign managers.
Lewandowski's involved
Yeah,
again. He's back.
Man, you have 80 days until the election. 80. That's not a lot of time when you think about, and I think the X thing was amazing. I think it was fantastic. It reached a lot of people. You know who it didn't reach? People over the age of 60. That's who it didn't reach. Because people over the age of 60, they're not on X. All right. And you need every single vote you can get, every single one. And instead of playing golf for 4 hours today, you probably should have been in the IHOPs and in the cafes and stuff, shaking hands and answering questions. You and your VP candidate, right? Not playing golf. When I saw that today, I was like, what are you doing, dude? You've got 80 days. You know what Kamala and Tim Walsh are doing? I think is smart, is they're taking that bus to the convention. They're leaving early. They're taking a bus. And guess what they're doing along the way? They're stopping at those truck stops. They're stopping at Love's. They're stopping and they're shaking those hands of
Hey,
normal, average,
newsflash,
everyday people.
that bus ain't gonna make it on time. I'm just letting you know that.
You know what? They're going to get to the convention on time. All right, they're going to get to the convention on time. Barry's
There's
going to be there.
A Palestinian
Barry's
protest
speaking.
that's gonna be blocking that highway. That bus ain't making it on time.
There ain't going to be no Palestinian protest in Western Pennsylvania. I'm telling you that right now.
That ain't where it's being held at. Where they got to drive to?
Where they got to drive through. Where they got to drive through. I'm going to buy you a globe. All right, but Trump's busy on the golf course acting like he's got 80 months till the election, not 80 days. And he needs every vote. And I don't know who's advising him right now, but attacking Rogan, attacking Kemp, and playing golf, stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Stupid man. He's letting his ego get the best of him. And he's like, and I see it on, some of these, big MAGA accounts on X. They're like, well, he's up in the polls. Why would he need to, keep campaigning? It's like, really? You think those polls translate into votes? You think everybody who answered the poll, they're going to go vote? Stupid.
So you think they make it from Pennsylvania to Chicago uninterrupted on that bus?
Bro, dude, they're going to have advanced scouts. The route of that bus ain't going to be advertised the day before.
Maybe. I'll be shocked.
I'll be shocked if Donald Trump wins in November.
Well, hopefully you'll be shocked. I think that. I think the convention next week. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be.
It's going to be chippy.
Yeah. Dude, don't they have Joe speaking first? Like, isn't he on the first day?
Yeah, the first day is a tribute to Joe. That's
He literally just became the opening band.
Ugh.
He's the opening act. They literally brought in the local band that's from like Queen Creek, Arizona, down into Phoenix and said, hey, you're going to open up for Pearl Jam or whatever.
It back to Joe Rogan. I think he's right. I mean, she may gaslight her way, or the media, actually. It's not even her. It's the media may gaslight, 80 million people enough to put her in the presidency, because it's insane when you look at her approval numbers a week before Joe Biden stepped aside. Horrible. Look at him now. It's like, what the? It's truly incredible to watch. It really is. I think I may watch that movie. What's that movie? The one with the mask. Natalie Portman was in it. The one about the shit. I can't believe I can't remember it. It's killing me. About the shit. It takes place in Great Britain. It's about alternative future where, come on, damn it. I'm gonna remember it after we stop recording. You've seen it. God damn it.
That's fine. We can do an addendum to the podcast. You'll be all right.
This is The Mask.
You're talking about V for Vendetta?
V for Vendetta. Yeah. I'm thinking about watching that one again. That, and maybe read 1984 again. Because this is really, there was a movie.
Amazing time. 1984 really was a movie. It's not very good, but they made a movie about that.
Yeah, it was a book first.
It's kind of Well, I know that the book is way better. I'm just saying they made a movie. I think it was on Netflix or whatever, and I was like, oh, this would be cool. Let me watch it. And yeah, I mean, just like every other
A
movie
lot,
that comes from a book,
a
they
lot
all
of us
suck.
saw 1984 for what it was. It was a warning. The left looked at it as a how-to guide.
Hey, might be working.
It's absolutely working. It's absolutely working.
And the backlash is going to be brutal. I mean, it really is, and it may not happen soon, but the backlash is not going to be pretty. It's really not.
I'm interested to see what happens. Well, not only obviously here, unfortunately, I think I know what's going to happen. And people. I'm the black pill. Roger is the Roger's the white pill optimist for the group, and Luke's kind of in the middle. I'm slowly bringing him to my side though, but I'm interested to see what happens in the UK.
Oof.
Right, because now we've got the Irish. Now we've got the Irish starting to crack off Molotov cocktails again. Right, throwing them at police cars and stuff like that, and it's like, ooh, the world's healing itself a little bit, right? When the Irish start breaking out the Molotov cocktail, now we just need the FALs to come out.
Now they are no joke arresting people for Facebook posts.
Dude, that guy got 18 months for posting a meme.
Yes,
for posting a meme on social media, 18 months. And now they are getting ready. I think it's going to happen tomorrow. They are passing an anti-blasphemy law where you cannot denigrate Muslims. You cannot say anything derogatory about Muslims.
Oof. That's a
bro.
UK is going to be lit. Maybe we'll see.
And it's not just there though. I mean, the EU as a whole, the EU, by itself is trying to mandate that stuff across all its member nations.
Oh,
yeah.
Josh, how's your case of monkeypox coming along? Because I saw that the UN put out that it's a serious concern. So I was just wondering.
It's no joke. I'm telling you. Yeah, appointment's working really well. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought Luke had it when he first came on here. He said he was a little sick and everything. Or you're getting sick. You're on the verge of getting sick.
It could be monkeypox.
Yeah. You have some hives showing on like your cheeks and a little bit on the forehead.
I may have given it to him. He owed me a couple favors.
Josh is the monkey and Luke is number 2.
Oh man.
So that means you die, Luke. The monkey never dies. It's always the one that the monkey.
That's right. The host.
Yeah, really? The host never dies, man.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, the host never dies, dude.
Is that how AIDS started?
Well, that was the CIA, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, you know what though? It depends. If you have money, you'll live, even if you're not the host, because Magic wasn't the host.
Undetectable,
dude.
Yeah. Is that not incredible? I mean, he's right up there, dude. He's probably on the same dietary plan that Barry Bonds is on. That's why he got bigger and more yoked.
That's why, dude. Every time I see it, every time I see it, I laugh. It's like stay positive, and it's a photo of Magic Johnson. It's the best.
I always thought it was fascinating that when he came down with AIDS, even back then, or HIV, whatever, even back then, I was like, isn't it funny? His name is Magic Johnson. It's not so magic, is it? And now he's cured of HIV. It's like he is Magic Johnson.
He is a Magic Johnson. That's hilarious.
Hey, that's our cover art. There we go. You just came up with our cover art.
That's good.
Remember those T-shirts, Big Johnson? Are y'all old enough to remember those?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
It was those and No Fear. Were so big. The No Fear.
Oh yeah, dude. I haven't seen like a No Fear shirt in like 20 years at least. You got a couple, don't you, Josh? I know you got some.
I had a couple when I was in middle school. Yeah. Let's see, middle school, high school. Yeah, I had a couple of No Fear shirts. I had a couple of Big Johnson shirts, but I had to keep them in the trunk of my car, and I could only put them on when I got to school because I knew my mom would have murdered me if she saw me walking out the door.
Oh my God, you actually had some Big Johnson shirts?
Yeah, I had one or two.
I feared.
Hey, so the AIWB carry of a Kimber, that'll help you too with that whole Big Johnson thing. Just saying.
It won't help you in the pole vault though.
Oh
no, it won't.
That's epic, man.
You know what? That's bullshit. Because you know what? When I was telling my wife about that, she's like, I need to find that video. I'm like, no, you don't. I've already told you about it. She's like, well, no, I need to go see that video. I'm like, no, you don't. I just told you what happened. Well, I got to see that. I'm like, no, you're fine.
Bro, I don't know what it was, but it was like, it was like the, the previews when Aquaman came out when Jason Momoa was Aquaman. Dude, my wife went and saw the movie like 12 times, and this pole vaulting thing, she was like, I've never been as interested in the Olympics as I am today. Right? She probably watched that clip, I don't know, at least a couple dozen times,
You know,
you know?
Josh, one of the things you always say, when somebody posts or says men are pigs, it's like you realize that book series. What was that book series called? The S&M book series that was the great, is the best selling.
Oh, Shades of Grey?
Yeah, Shades of Grey. You realize that's one of the best
Yeah.
selling books of all time. Yeah, there won't no men buying that. It's also,
Nope.
but the flip side of that is like, people are like, dad bod is not a thing. Aquaman grossed 76.2 whatever, $760 million. Then somebody will reply back and it's like, the movie Shrek, that grossed like $3.1 billion. So, I'll see your dad bod and praise you too.
That's right.
You know what though?
That's
I will
right.
tell you, I like having a couple drinks at night. Now, I've already had a couple during the show, and you get on the X before I go to bed, and it's you read through some of the comments, dude. I love it. I mean, you can tell it's getting chippy, and I'll kick it over to Josh to close out or Luke or whatever. But I read one. They were going back and forth, this guy and this woman, and she's like, "You call yourself a man?" And then she comes back and says, or he says, "You're a grown ass woman, yet here we are with no sandwiches ready. Get to work."
Oh Lord.
Real quick,
Ah,
I'll kick it over to Luke, but want to give a quick shout out to Ted. Dude, he called it, man. We didn't even get to the whole Kamala thing. Wasn't a big fan of Kamala during his wrestling career, but I will say that his presidential run, when it first happened and they announced it, I was like, Ted, what do you think is going to happen here? And he's like, dude, it's a basement campaign. I'm like, no way. I mean, she can get out and she can read a teleprompter and this and that and whatever. He's like, dude, they are not going to let her speak. And this is before she, agreed to not do any interviews or whatever. But he's like, dude, they're going to straight basement her. It's going to be everything scripted. You might see a couple town halls here or there, but dude, they're going to basement her. It's going to be Joe all over again. Joe, 2.0. So quick shout out to him. He definitely called it.
He calls some things right sometimes, broken clock and everything. Just joking, Ted. Hey, I'm going to give a shout out, not necessarily to a listener, but I wish this person did listen. I'm going to give a shout out to Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. If you don't know who that is, Anna Paulina Luna, type that into Google and just hit images. Thank you. Thank you for that, Congresswoman. We need more Trump supporters like you. We need more MAGA like you. So to close out the whole sexist thing and all that stuff, I'll leave y'all with a story about Winston Churchill. He was talking with a woman one night. He was offending her. And she said, "Sir, if you were my husband, I would put poison in your tea." And he replied, "Madam, if you were my wife, I would drink it." And until next time, keep your canteen cups full and tightly secured.
And still don't have no damn sandwiches.